Coach. Opening thoughts just from the off week and looking ahead to Cliff Keen Invitational.
Well, so it's been a while since we got together. I think it was before Iowa, right? So, yeah, just to get everybody caught up, I guess, a little bit because we got a lot of guys going directions this weekend, and obviously coming off the Iowa match in my press conference there, I felt like the good thing about I think there's always good things about losing. We don't like to lose, but I think the good thing about that was that we learned a lot. We learned where at least 10 guys were on our team in terms of progress, in terms of health. So moving forward, we've got 3 groups going this weekend. We got some of our young guys going to an open tournament at Buena Vista College in Storm Lake. Coach St. John's going to take a handful of guys to Cleveland State Open, and then we're going to take 10 guys to the Las Vegas Cliff Keen Invitational, which we'll leave tomorrow on Wednesday. So, kind of going through, I guess, just to be transparent. And people always ask me, why are you so transparent, Coach? Well, I think we got a lot of fans out there, and I think we got you guys all come in and take your time to follow and support Iowa State wrestling, and we got a lot of season ticket holders out there. And so if people ask me that all the time, I said, I think I'm going to give them as many answers that I have. Obviously, there's some things that we got to keep in house, but for the most part, I'm going to shoot you straight. And right now, we're taking Adrian Meza to Vegas for us at 125. Kyson Terrakina actually won the wrestle-off and was slated to wrestle against Iowa, but woke up on Friday morning with a stiff neck, and it was really sore. So we're treating that. We expect to have him back next weekend. We go to North Dakota State, but we didn't want to push it. So we're being a little conservative. 133, Evan Frost is in good shape. We'll take him with us to Las Vegas. We had a wrestle-off this week at 141. Jacob Frost beat Zach Redding. So Jacob Frost will go with us to Las Vegas this weekend. And there's a lot of competition in this room. So, it's probably maybe a little bit unusual, but not unusual that we're seeing some different guys right now. 149, Anthony Ichimadia. 157, Panero Johnson, but we will have Cody Chittum available this weekend. He's going to go with Coach St. John to the Cleveland State Open. So we got to kind of figure out matches there as well. So we got some things to figure out there. 165 is probably the disappointment of of this press conference, in that we found out late last week that Connor Uten tore his ACL in that match at Iowa. I think if you remember, he had to stop that match in the late second period, and I even mentioned in my press conference that it could be anywhere from a slight sprain to an ACL, and unfortunately I hit the wrong end of the spectrum, but that's what it is. The good news in Connor's situation is he will be able to medical this year and get 3 years back for us. So obviously we don't feel like we lose a lot with MJ Gaitan. MJ will go with us to Las Vegas. I think both those guys can win a lot of matches for us. I think Connor Uten showed the wrestling world just how competitive and how tough he is. But MJ brings a different factor. They both bring a guy that can win a lot of matches for us at 165, so I'm excited to see that. Aiden Riggins will go at 174. We will send Manny Rojas out to Cleveland as well at 165. 184 will be Bachman. 197 we'll send Sawyer Bartell out to Ohio, and Christian Carroll with us at Vegas. He's been a little bit under the weather, so he's probably a maybe a little bit, but we'll see how he progresses we're leaving tomorrow, so it's probably 50-50 with him. And then the other guy that we Younger went in there, probably wasn't quite ready to go. Didn't injure anything worse, but didn't help ourselves there. So we're going to sit Younger probably until Nashville, which is December 21st. That's when he's scheduled to be released by the doctors. So we didn't injure anything, but we weren't, if I held my cards in anything, Younger did not get to train at all before that match in Iowa City. Just wanted to go out there and compete. And so we obviously we're a little bit banged up right now, and sometimes that just goes in streaks, and we're in that streak. So that's it, guys. That's as transparent as I can be. All right.
Questions if you have them.
What did you guys, I imagine you probably learn the same thing from Cliff Keen's anytime you compete, but what did you learn about your team last year? And do you expect to learn similar things, or different questions need to be answered this year?
It's probably a little different team just because we're a little bit more inexperienced, I think. But, last year what I liked is we got done with a pretty tough loss on a Sunday here at Hilton against Iowa, and then we had to leave Wednesday to go to Vegas. and Friday and Saturday we win. Last year was no different than this year. 17 of the top 20 teams in the nation are going to be in Las Vegas, and it was the same way last year. The only teams that aren't there are obviously three really good ones: Penn State, Minnesota, and Iowa. But you're going to get to see a mini national tournament. So it's good for us. It's going to be a lot of questions answered, and it's a chance, really. I mean, if you do well as an individual in this, you really set yourself up. I think Evan Frost is a perfect example. Evan got to the finals last year and went to the NCAA tournament, and he was, a top 7 seed, top 6 seed. Yeah. So he really set his season up nice. So that's why this tournament's important.
Are there any big preparations you guys are making for Vegas?
Nope, just kind of, business as usual. We got a little time over the holidays to let them eat, which is unusual. So they got to eat a little bit more than normal, and got a chance to rest a little bit more over the holidays. Most of our guys stayed in town, so we should be really rested for this weekend.
What does Aiden Riggins need to do to get right?
Aiden Riggins just needs to go out and go get a good match under his belt. If you look at his schedule, he had one of the best guys. At Stanford, he had the best guy from Navy. He goes and wins the Grandview Open, and then gets a guy in Kennedy who I think's a stud. And obviously, maybe there was some history there. I don't know what the history was in the room, but obviously one guy was ready to go for that match and one wasn't. So, my message is to him is be ready to go. Don't hold your cards. Let's go, and this is a great opportunity for him.
You mentioned after the Iowa duel that we would see some lineup changes. I don't know if these are lineup changes that you're necessarily thinking, but when Cody Chittum gets back in the regular lineup, how does he slot in with Panero Johnson? Do they have a wrestle off? Do people move weights? What does that all look like?
I think we'll have a better idea to see how Cody competes, to see how Panero competes, to see how everybody competes there. We've got some options there with guys that could potentially drop weight. I think right now, just to give you a fair answer, it's let's focus on, we got 3 guys competing at Division I tournaments this weekend, and let the wrestling and let the real competition, not the wrestling room stuff, kind of guide us. In November, late October, November, your wrestle-offs are your guide, and you got to have them. As you start getting into competition, the reason we're sending some guys, another direction to a Division I tournament is because we want to get a feel for where they're at in December.
We know that Gaitan is a
high flyer.
Yeah, an entertaining wrestler.
Yeah, high flyer.
Could pin somebody, could almost get pinned or whatever.
Yeah, he's a turbulent guy.
Yeah. What's the next step look like for him?
This weekend is a great opportunity for him to get and I think he's at the right weight. Obviously, I felt like he was a small 174 pounder, but there's this guy named David Carr that was at 165, so he didn't have many options. So I think he's at a weight that he can really get something done. So if he does this last 72 hours in his prep work, his nutrition and his weight cut, if he does that well, I think he's going to have a really good weekend. So I'm excited to see what kind of weekend he has.
We saw his strength shine through at 174, just with his ability to pin people. What does that look like at 165?
Well, I think you're going to see the same guy in the same style. I hope he's just a little bit bigger there. I mean, I feel like we lost a match the first round of the NCAAs last year just because we had a boy against a man. I think MJ was a better wrestler, but when you get a fifth-year senior that's a man, he felt what a man felt like. And so, we need him to be maybe the bigger, stronger guy, and hopefully 165 will prove that. We'll see.
Which Frost brother is happier that they'll both be competing with the Cliff Keens?
Well, those guys don't say a whole lot. They just smile. So I don't know. I think they'll be both. I'm sure that, we're going to have to put them together in the same room. They'll change their room unless we know that. So.
How important is it to have a guy like Adrian Mays, a true freshman, step up and win some really big matches for you? I'm assuming the plan is still redshirt him, but
right.
What's it like for you as a coach to see the glimpses of what the future looks like with him?
Yeah, he gets 5 dates as a freshman, and this is his 5th date. Okay. So, he'll be able to wrestle in some open tournaments. So if Tarakina gets healthy like we think he's going to, he'll be the guy. But, man, Adrian's done a great job. He's like 8-0. He's had to wrestle off like 4 times. I think he's 8-0 in competition, national competition, and 2-2 in the wrestling room. But he's really stepped up and done a good job for us. Like I said before, I love his professionalism. I love how he approaches making his weight and all that kind of stuff. And as he gets better at wrestling, like we all needed to when we were freshmen, he's got a chance to really help us down the road. But really, what a great. He got our Wrestler of the Week award last week. We call it the Big Head Award, and he got the Big Head Award a week for the team last week.
Professionalism isn't often you hear a word associated with freshmen.
No, you're right.
And you mentioned his background a little bit before with his dad being an MMA fighter and things like that. What has that professionalism brought to the room, just for even other freshmen to see and be like, oh, this is what that looks like?
Well, I hope they're watching, and I hope a few juniors and sophomores and maybe even a few seniors are watching, because it doesn't matter what age. When you make a decision to do things the right way, you get results. And so, when you're young, you can't afford to feel bad in the third period. And his third periods have been all really good because he's done all of the things that you can be the greatest wrestler in the world, and if you don't do things right, your third period is going to be ugly. And his whole matches have been a pretty consistent guy for a freshman.
You mentioned turbulent as a style for MJ. Is that also a way, maybe in a different sense, to describe Kyson's career?
Kyson's roller coaster with Kyson's career. We've seen a guy that's really, really good, and I really like the guy that we've seen in the last 2 months, just in terms of the way he approaches everything. I really like that. He's not hurt that bad right now, but to the point that we don't want his first weekend to be 2 days of Las Vegas, because then all we're doing is setting ourselves up for sitting him for 3 or 4 more weeks. So if the right word's babying him, we're babying him a little bit to get him feeling good, so when we turn him loose on December 15th, we can just rock and roll. But man, if he gets it going, and I really like what I see right now, but if that guy gets it going, he can go a long ways in March.
I remember him as a freshman, I feel like, and he's always said the right things. What's it been like watching him go from, because I've heard wrestlers say it before, it's easy to say what you're going to do. With maturity, you learn that you're saying it, but you're believing it.
Well, it's kind of like finally, all right? You're a fifth-year guy, finally, And I think he's got people in his life right now. He's grown up. Everybody grows up at different points, So you come in and you're super immature, and it takes a while. And I think, I've got my fingers crossed, but I think we got a guy right now that I've just watched his weight, and for the last 45 days, he's never been this consistent.
Christian Carroll obviously had a tough match last week against Iowa. How important is this Cliff Keen tournament going to be for him, just to see where he can go this season?
It's going to be important. He's a guy that's a little bit like Kyson was his freshman year. He's a roller coaster right now. You got to figure it out. It's a guy that says all the right things, but you got to do the right things. And so I'm not picking on him, but there's got to be consistency in the wrestling room. There's got to be consistency, and you got to get, what probably one of the hardest things to get freshmen to understand is that what happens in the wrestling room every week is going to really help you down the road or really hurt you down the road. And so there's got to be consistency. There's got to be a sense of urgency in the practice room. And you don't see that with a lot of freshmen. And, we haven't seen that with him yet, with that consistent, all right, practice is really important. So, I'm challenging him. I'm going to challenge again today and say, you got to have good days in here if you want to have good days out there.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thanks,
you.
Coach.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. You got a couple.